Thank you to all the members for supporting my channel. Some of you who are old to my channel might be having deja vu right now. I made a video not long after I started YouTube where I basically go over this topic, where I discuss why artifacts are bad and how to potentially fix them. But that video is very old now, over a year and a half, and by the time I made that video my balls hadn't dropped yet because despite the entire internet being convinced I'm 37, I am actually not. I am 20. So today, I would like to remake that video now that I've been playing Genshin for a significantly longer amount of time. I'm going to be going into this video under the assumption that you're a new player, you might not even play Genshin, and you don't fully understand what artifacts are. So for those of you that are old and you disheveled and crippled dirty old men like me who've been playing the game for a long period of time, you're just gonna have to strap in and deal with it for a little bit. I promise we'll get to the good stuff. So let's go over the basics, starting with what artifacts are. If you haven't played Genshin, artifacts are essentially the main stat sticks to determine if you pass or fail a DPS check. Each artifact belongs to a set, and every set gives you a stat bonus if you have 2 or 4 of each set, but some of them will give you bonuses if you only have 1, like the elemental tiaras. Each set has a grand total of 5 pieces, and each piece will have a main stat and a substat. You can get up to 4 substats, at which point obtaining another substat will add into the accumulated 4 already on the artifact. So to put it into simple terms, if I have a flower that has HP as the main stat and 3 substats, when I level up to level 4 it'll gain a 4th substat, at which point, let's just assume that the substat it rolled being attack percent, if I get that artifact to level 8, it will get another roll into one of the 4 existing stats. So potentially I could get another attack stat roll on top of my existing roll. It cannot, however, roll into a stat that you don't already have. So if your 4 substats are flat attack, flat HP, flat defense, and HP percent, it is impossible for you to roll a crit damage roll when you get to level 8. It just won't happen. You will be getting one of those 4 sad, lonely substats. The main stats you can have on each piece is different. There are 5 main pieces. The flower can only have HP, the feather can only have flat attack, and the remaining 3 pieces being the sands, the goblet, and the headpiece all have differing main stats that are based off of a percentage. So for example, a level 20 5-star flower will have around 4.7 thousand HP, and you can have a sands that'll have roughly 48% HP bonus on it. That number might not be exact, I'm just going off of what I remember. But you get the idea. So far things seem pretty alright. You wouldn't really think there's anything wrong with the artifact system, but unfortunately it can never really be that cut and dry. You see, the chance of getting the main stat on all of your 3 secondary pieces is not actually the same. So for example, we have the goblet, the humble goblet. The goblet can have elemental mastery, all of the primary damage types, which includes Cryo, Electro, Geo, Animo, Hydro, Pyro, and Dendro, as well as Physical, and that's also not including the HP and defense percent pieces you can also get. And here's the real humdinger. The chance of getting all of these artifacts is actually not the same. I'm not sure how many of you have noticed this, but Elemental Mastery main stat pieces are very, very rare for goblets, and that's not a mistake. The chance of getting a main stat Elemental Mastery piece is actually significantly lower than everything else. The same can be said for the helmets or the tiaras or the crowns or whatever you want to call them, your headpiece. Your headpiece has a chance of rolling crit rate and crit damage as a main stat. Well, little did you know that both of those stats are in fact rarer than the other stats. But guess what, my friend? You are not alone in that department too, because the chance of you actually rolling a good main stat is completely irrelevant, because now you have to worry about your substats. And unfortunately, your substats are also completely random, and it's not just you thinking that the chance of rolling crit damage and crit rate is lower than everything else. No, that's actually true. It is significantly more likely for you to roll a flat defense, HP, or attack value than it is for you to roll something like Elemental Mastery, Energy Recharge, Attack percent, HP percent, Defense percent, Crit rate, and Crit damage. If you add all of these contributing factors together, you get easily one of the worst artifact leveling systems I've seen in a video game. But wait, because it gets worse. Assuming you even get the main stats you want, you have to then level up the stat. And like I said earlier, by leveling up the main stat, you will also level up the substat once you reach levels 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20, at which point you will get another value. And if you get unlucky, and your 2 times crit roll on a main stat crit rate artifact piece, or whatever the hell you have, doesn't end up rolling into those crit values, the artifact is essentially useless, and you have to go through the whole grind again, trying to get another one. And here comes the real kick in the nuts. Assuming you don't spend any money, Assuming you play the game completely normally, and even if you do spend money, you are limited heavily on the amount of artifacts you can get a day. It costs 20 resin to do one domain, and at the max level of the domain possible, you will get one artifact of the 5-star quality, which is the only one even worth looking at, per run. With resin taking 8 minutes to regenerate, and with you only being allowed to do one run for every 20 resin, you are only allotted 9 5-star artifacts every single day. And as we have gone over before, the odds of you actually getting the thing you want is significantly tilted in the scales of their favor rather than your own, which is why you very rarely see artifacts that have a really insane CV, which is crit value, which is another thing we need to talk about. Optimal crit value. Crit is the most valuable stat in Genshin Impact. Pretty much every single character that is worth a damn really wants crit, and anybody who's built a character knows, yeah, that's probably the hardest stat to build. Of course, there are some exceptions, characters like Elemental Mastery and HP, like Hu Tao, Yelan, Nahida, Sino, and Kuki Shinobu, but at the end of the day, every character can crit, and every character can do easily double or triple damage depending on the amount of crit rate you have. That all being said, you want to go for crit value. To find your crit value, all you need to do is take your crit rate, multiply it by 2, and add it to your crit damage. So if you have 5 crit rate and 10 crit damage, you would have 20 CV, or 20 crit value. For an optimal artifact, you want to typically try and shoot for around 30 CV, however it's acceptable to swing 25 to 30 because somewhere in that ballpark the rate of return on your resin significantly diminishes, and it's probably more valuable to go farm another character. And by that I mean, it's probably going to be so much harder to get a piece better than what you already have, it's not really worth going after that point. So with that statistic in mind, that pretty much means that just about every single artifact you get is going to be absolutely useless. If you want to get an optimal artifact, it'll usually take you around 1 month of fully farming to get a fully functional set with at least 20 CV, let alone 30. And for that reason, it is no real secret as to why the artifact farming system that's currently implemented in Genshin is so heavily hated. You can't even really spend money to speed up the process because you're limited on the amount of resin refreshes you can do a day. So by now you can probably see the problem. Now let's talk about a potential solution. The first thing you could do is fairly obvious. For the love of God, please remove the flat stats in every artifact roll. They are literally garbage. Assuming you even roll full on into the highest value flat stat, which last I checked is HP, it is still totally useless. An additional 1000 HP on a full artifact roll is literally nothing when you have 20,000 HP, and that is the highest value one. The second highest I'm pretty sure is attack, and it's also very useless. Simply by removing the flat values, you will make artifact farming significantly easier in the long run, as you will remove a lot of the bloat and the trashy substats that most characters don't use. That would only leave the percentage equivalents left in the game. Those percentages being crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, HP percent, and defense percent, with the final stat being Elemental Mastery, but that's a unique exception as Elemental Mastery is only a flat number value and it has no percentage-based equivalent in the game as far as I'm aware. By cleaning up all that trash, it would make it significantly easier to level artifacts into something you actually want and that is actually useful, because let's face it, at the end of the day, it's hard enough getting a main stat onset piece for the thing you want already. Let's go for something else that doesn't require completely overhauling the way the system has been made. An artifact reroll system could also be very valuable, giving us the ability to reset our artifact back to 0 and to start rolling it again from level 1 and hopefully get a different outcome would be incredibly helpful in the long run. It could also be a little bit of a gamble too, because what if you get 15 CV, it's not really worth it, you reset the roll, level it up again and only get 9 CV, well, is what it is. That's just life. The RNG system screwed you twice. These items would have to be pretty rare. I would say you maybe only get 5 of them per big event per event, which I think that would make them A, valuable enough to be worth getting, and B, not too common to where you could completely break the balancing of the game because you got this one really awesome onset fucking, I don't know, hydro bonus damage piece that had HP percent, crit rate, crit damage, and energy recharge, and it all rolled into HP percent, and then you re-roll it and boom, now you're God. And obviously something along the same lines, you can make an artifact crafting system like how Star Rail has, where you can hand make your own artifact and pick its main stat, which could be very valuable because, again, sometimes a new set will come out or a new elemental cup will come out and you will literally sit in that domain and farm that elemental cup for a year before you get one. And I would know, because when I came to Genshin, I once farmed an Anemo cup for Zhao, a 5-star Anemo cup, for 4 months before I finally got one, and yes, it was a very painful experience. Giving us the ability to hand make our own artifacts and pick the main stat at very least, hell, even the substat for the love of God, would make things a lot easier. Again, these things would have to be very rare, more rare than the reroll system. I would say giving one per big event would be the best way to do it, but again, there's probably balancing concerns that come with this, so more thought would need to be put in it as is. Another way you could get them is from the Masterless Star Glitter shop, because unlike Star Rail that has really powerful weapons and Eidolons in the shop, we don't have that. We only have, what, character cons for 4 stars that are useless. I mean, I hate to break it to you, sweetheart, nobody's going for C6 Lisa. And the people that are, Gallery, I'm looking at you, have issues. No, I'm just joking. I love you, server dad. Yeah, you can main whoever you want, but I'm gonna make fun of you if you main Lisa. Anyway, getting back on track, let's talk about some things that are just completely impossible to implement into the game. First things first, straight up removing resin. Hate to break it to you, Tootsie, that ain't gonna happen. They are never going to remove artifacts and resin from the game. That would completely break the balancing. On top of that, it would literally be illegal. There is an untold amount of people that have spent money to refresh their resin, and to remove that and just completely get rid of resin would literally be breaking gacha game laws in Japan, so that's not gonna happen. On top of that, it would absolutely shred apart the balancing of the game. Also, it would kinda just make you burn out. Like, again, some of you who are watching this video, especially those of you that made this far, you probably love the idea of farming resin all day, but unfortunately, Genshin's main audience is mostly casual, and the idea of farming a domain for 20 hours every single day looking for the perfect piece just isn't really plausible for their core demographic. As they have proved in the past, that's just not the type of people they're associating with. So keeping it locked to only being able to do 9 1.5-minute domains a day makes their life significantly easier, and it attends to their core demographic. Do I like that that's the case? No. But hey, is what it is. Another situation that probably could fix it but really won't is adding more resin. Look, man, adding more resin is not going to solve any issues. What they need to do is increase the resin refresh rate, which I don't think they're ever going to do. And even assuming that they did, there's already so much in the game you have to spend resin on every week. If you're new to the game and you haven't been farming the world bosses, you are pretty much going to be spending 4 days of your 7 days a week entirely on farming those bosses, not to mention essential materials, talent resource books, and everything of the like. If that wasn't enough to encourage them to increase the resin refresh value, then artifacts is definitely not going to do that either. But with that all being said, I would absolutely love to hear what ideas you have on fixing the resin, and if your ideas are good enough, I might make a follow-up video, showing off some of the comments. I will credit you, of course, talking about y'all's ideas, because I think that would be fun. But by all means, leave your comments on how you think you will fix the resin down below. I think it'd be very interesting. In the meantime, however, I really appreciate it if you made it this far. If you liked the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. If you really like me, go ahead and subscribe. And please, allow me to take this time to support the channel members that have subscribed to me in the past few days. R. Farah, Daito, Adam Artemac, Kabanasi, High Pity, Jet Kirby, Davey Halverson, Zillamental Supreme, Darkoth, Crystal, Cat Food Tastes Good, Demomatic, Valen, I don't even know anymore to be honest, Shrutdark, and Sander. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please click on the join button. For those of you that have already supported the channel, I really appreciate your input. Thank you for helping support my trash tier quality content. That all being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe everyone. Peace, peace.